Here is what nobody tells you about passive income in 2026. Almost every video you have ever watched about it is selling you a job, not a passive income stream. A job, a small business, a side hustle, a thing you have to wake up and tend to every single morning like it is a second shift you did not apply for. The dream is the same, money that shows up while you sleep. The reality is you lying in bed at 11 p.m. answering a customer message about a missing package and wondering at what point this became the rest of your life. There is a reason that video does not work. The word passive has been hijacked. By 2026, an entire generation of creators has been taught that passive income means drop shipping, Amazon FBA, digital courses about digital courses, faceless YouTube channels that take 14 hours a day to look faceless, and affiliate marketing stacks so convoluted they require a flow chart and a small grant. These are not passive. They are active income disguised in a marketing funnel. The actual passive income, the kind that lets you sleep, lets you disappear for a week, lets your money work whether you do or not, is so boring it is almost offensive. It does not have a course to sell you. It does not have a guru. It does not photograph well for thumbnails. It looks, at first glance, like nothing at all is happening. And that is exactly why it works. This video is about 5 kinds of passive income that actually function in 2026. 5 that are mathematically, historically, and provably passive. None of them will make you a millionaire in a weekend. None of them involve Lamborghinis. 3 of them will sound so dull you will consider clicking away. That, as you will see, let us start with the mistake almost everyone makes when they search for passive income. They search for the highest return. 100%, 1,000%. Numbers that would, in any other financial context, be a red flag the size of a billboard. But because the word passive has been wrapped in a dream, we treat obvious scams like they are obvious opportunities. The reason this keeps happening is psychological, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. We are wired to want the shortcut. Behavioral economists call it hyperbolic discounting, the human tendency to value a small reward now far more than a much larger reward later. It is why you cannot save money even when you promise yourself you will. It is why the lottery sells. It is why dropshipping gurus make 6 figures selling you a dream they themselves did not achieve. The shortcut feels rational. The boring path feels like a punishment. And so a generation of smart, hardworking people have been funneled into businesses that produce more stress than the jobs they were trying to escape. But the math does not care about your psychology. The math says the same thing it has said for 100 years. Compound growth at a reasonable rate, sustained for a long time, with money you do not touch, will quietly outperform every shortcut the internet has ever sold you. That is the part nobody makes a thumbnail about. Let us walk through the 5 kinds of passive income that actually work in 2026, in the order most people should pursue them. The first is dividend growth investing. This is, in plain terms, owning small slices of profitable companies that pay you a portion of their profits every quarter and then raising that payment over time. A company like Coca-Cola has increased its dividend for over 60 consecutive years. Procter & Gamble, Johnson & Johnson, Walmart. These are not sexy names. They will never go viral. But they pay you to own them, and they raise the pay almost every year like clockwork. The trick, and this is the part the financial influencer industrial complex does not want you to hear, is that you do not pick individual stocks. You buy a low-cost index fund that holds hundreds of them at once. You set up an automatic transfer. You do not check it. You let the dividend reinvest. You let time do the work. The historical average return of the S&P 500, with dividends reinvested, over the last 50 years, is roughly 10% per year. That is not a pitch. That is what happened. The boring math. If you put $500 a month into a broad index fund from age 25 to age 65, the math says you end up with around $2 million, of which roughly half is your contributions and half is compound growth. $500,000 of that, depending on your withdrawal rate, generates $20,000 a year in passive dividend income. Without lifting a finger, without selling anything, without showing up. This is what passive income actually looks like. It is invisible. It is quiet. It is insulting to people who want to work harder for less. The second is real estate without being a landlord. Most people hear real estate and immediately think tenants, toilets, and 2 a.m. phone calls about broken water heaters. That is not passive. That is being a property manager for free. In 2026, you can own real estate through a REIT, a real estate investment trust, which is essentially a fund that owns and operates buildings, apartments, data centers, warehouses, and medical facilities, and pays you roughly 70 to 90% of its taxable income as a dividend. You buy one share. You get exposure to a diversified portfolio of physical real estate. You do not fix toilets. You do not evict anyone. REITs have existed since 1960 and have produced average annual returns of roughly 9 to 10%, with a current dividend yield of around 3 to 4%, depending on which one you buy. That is income paid quarterly, in cash, into your brokerage account, while you sleep. It is the closest thing to owning rental property that is actually passive. The third is what Codie Sanchez calls boring business ownership. This one is newer to the mainstream conversation, but has been quietly producing wealthy owners for decades. The thesis is simple. Almost every lucrative business in America is not a tech startup. It is a laundromat, a car wash, a vending machine route, a storage facility, a pool cleaning company, a landscaping operation, a pest control business. Businesses that require real-world infrastructure, that produce real cash, and that almost no young person wants to own. Why? Because they are not cool. Because they do not get venture capital. Because you cannot tell people at a dinner party that you own a septic service company and have them think you are interesting. And that is why they work. A laundromat in a busy area produces roughly $200,000 to $400,000 a year in profit. The owner often works 5 to 10 hours a week on it. There is no algorithm to game. There is no social media to manage. There are no competitors moving at the speed of light. The mode is location, equipment, and operations. All things an owner can build once and own for a decade or more. This is not glamorous. But the cash is real, the work is minimal after setup, and you can hire a manager to run it once the systems are in place. The fourth is royalties from intellectual property. This includes book royalties, music royalties, patent licensing, photography, course content you actually want to make, software you built once, and a dozen other things that pay you every time someone uses them. Most people hear royalties and think of J.K. Rowling. The reality is that even a modest book, with a clear topic and an audience that needs it, will continue to pay you for years. A photography portfolio on a stock site compounds. A piece of software you wrote in 2019 and never touched again still produces monthly recurring revenue. A song on a streaming platform is paid out forever. The work is front-loaded. The income is back-loaded. That is what makes it passive. In 2026, with AI tools making it easier than ever to create and distribute, this category has a lower barrier to entry than at any point in history. The mistake is treating it like a get-rich-quick scheme. The opportunity is treating it like a 5-year project that pays you for the next 20. The fifth, and this is the one that ties everything together, is the unsexy habit of paying yourself first before the money has a chance to disappear. This is not an investment. It is not an asset. It is the mechanism that makes the other four work. If you do not have an automatic transfer that moves money out of your checking account the day your paycheck arrives, you do not have a passive income strategy. You have a wish. A strategy requires the money to never enter the part of your brain that says, this could be a nice dinner, or this could be a nicer car, or this could be a subscription I will probably forget about in 8 months. The transfer is the firewall between your present self, who wants dopamine now, and your future self, who will thank you for being so boring. Insights section. Here is the part almost every video about passive income gets backwards. Passive income is not about making more money. It is about giving your past self a job. Every dollar you invest today is a tiny employee you are hiring to work for you. Compound and come back with interest. $500 a month for 30 years at 10% does not just grow. It transforms. The first decade, you are doing all the work and seeing almost nothing. The second decade, the math starts to look interesting. The third decade, it becomes genuinely absurd. The reason most people never reach that third decade is that they quit during the first. They check their accounts. They see a balance that is not impressive. They assume something is wrong. They move the money into something sexier. They start over. They do this 3 or 4 times in their life. Each time, they reset the clock. The people who quietly build real passive income are not smarter. They are not luckier. They are simply willing to be unimpressive for a decade. They set up the transfer, they do not touch it, and they let the math do what the math has always done. The hardest part of passive income is not choosing the investment. It is tolerating the boredom of it working slowly enough that nobody around you notices. Practical takeaway. So what should you actually do in 2026? If you are starting from zero, open a brokerage account this week. Not a savings account. A brokerage account. Put a small automatic transfer in place. Even $50 a month, even $25. Buy a broad index fund. Reinvest the dividends. Do not check it more than once a quarter. Do not panic when the market drops. The market has always recovered. It always will. Your job is simply to not interrupt the process. If you already have a year of expenses saved, add a small allocation to a REIT. Same logic. Set it. Forget it. Let the quarterly dividends show up in your account like clockwork. If you have a few $1,000s in liquid savings and you are tired of earning nothing on it, look into a boring business. Not to run it, to buy one. Cody Sanchez has a whole framework for this. The book is called Main Street Millionaire. It is the best book on building real, sustainable, unglamorous wealth that has been published in the last 5 years. Whatever you do, automate it. The moment willpower is required, the strategy is at risk. The moment it is automatic, it is permanent. Ending. Here is where this lands. Passive income in 2026 is not a hack. It is not a course. It is not a Lamborghini in a thumbnail. It is the most boring, most mathematical, most unsexy financial strategy in the history of money, and it has quietly produced more millionaires than every dropshipping funnel combined. You will not feel rich. That is the mechanism. You will look at your account, see a number that is not impressive, and wonder if it is even working. It is. The math does not care about your feelings. The math runs on time, not enthusiasm. If you start now, even small, even boring, even unimpressive, you are doing the thing 90% of people never do. You are low. You are letting the slow thing work. And the slow thing, given enough years, is the only thing that has ever actually worked. The only real question is whether you will stay patient long enough to see it. The numbers will eventually reflect it. They always do.